Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order with the start of pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. You should have all received a handout from Dr. Conway. I'll give you a moment to take a look at that, and then I think we can direct any comments regarding that to Dr. Conway, and then get to any other discussion.
Highlights.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you the floor to do that. We'll
Want to just prefer that or to go through it first? That's your choice. First. You can share the information and then do it. It's up to you. That's community forum first.
Let's do community forum. Thank you. I'm going to call a community forum first this evening. Sorry, I don't have a copy of my agenda with me. Is there anybody from the community who wishes to speak to the board this evening regarding the budget? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Tanya Damon Merrill, 138 Grove Street. After the last meeting, I went home and really thought about some of the things that specifically Mr. Kemp said about moving 5th grade to the middle school. That's not something that I support as a parent, and I'm going to say something that's not popular, but I would rather see reconfiguration than send 5th graders to the middle school. It's not a popular opinion in this town, I get it, but I would hate to send 5th graders to the middle school. It makes them grow up way too fast. Just the bus ride alone traumatizes me in thinking what they might be exposed to. And secondly, Mr. Kemp, you said something about teachers being able to be reduced because of class size. And at first I was shaking my head yes to you. It could be done. And then I thought about some of the behavior issues that my now 1st grader experienced last year, and I'm thinking, gosh, even at Northeast, if we made 2 2nd grades next year from the 3 small 1st grades, some of the behaviors in that classroom would be excruciatingly traumatizing for children just because some kids just don't function well. And I know that one-on-ones are in there, and I know that we have increased paraprofessional support at that level, but I'm just not sure that making class sizes bigger is going to be best for all of our students. I get we have to meet the needs of the special ed students, but I think making bigger class sizes for kids who are not necessarily special ed will be detrimental to them. So I know that this budget is not going to be easy to put together. 8+% increase is huge, especially when I see my husband's paycheck get smaller and smaller because of the 2% that is being taken out again. I know you don't have an easy task, but I really hope that you will think about not moving 5th graders to the middle school and really think about what impact reducing our teaching staff is going to do in the long term of education for our students in Vernon. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak this evening at community forum? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
I never did this before, so I'm all nervous. Denise Ferreira at 21 Grand Avenue here in Vernon. Thank you for letting the public speak tonight. First, I'd like to say that this budget, I hope in every way meets the needs of every student here in Vernon in every way possible. With that said, as a parent of a special education student, I am very concerned we are putting the needs of those children at risk. Because there is time constraints, I cannot tell you all the details, but I will draft a letter to each and every one of you and submit it to you. There are services that these students are required to receive that sometimes are not always provided to them. I know this is not an easy decision for you. I'm simply asking that all children, whether they're at-risk children, capable of learning children, any child in Vernon gets all their needs met. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak this evening in community forum? Seeing none, I'm going to declare community forum closed, and I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Conway to give a brief summary of the handouts.
I'll just highlight what the questions are, and certainly if the question was of interest to you, and there were many, many questions, I can go into those areas. Midday transportation obviously was a question. If we do go for all-day kindergarten, that would be reduced. We do still have pre-K though, so there would be some pre-K transportation there, but that would be the savings right now. The lower enrollment that we were requested to do, I went through, and for grades 3, 4, and 5, you can see the chart here that indicates how many sections we did have, how many sections it would be. And on 2 of these particular classes in schools, the principals have said that this would be completely detrimental to the mix of students we happen to have in those classrooms, that those 2 classrooms. And so we would report that 3 classes could be reduced, but not the 5 that we had originally thought, or the 4 that was suggested. Moving grade 5 to the Vernon Center Middle School is not something that is recommended by any of the administration here, but there are the issues that we have there. We have grade 5 being self-contained, so that means no one could share those classrooms. Everyone else would be sharing a classroom. You're right, teachers don't share their classrooms now, so that is a luxury in some schools. As a teacher, I always shared classrooms. We never had space of our own. And so they do that now, so they could fit, and but every teacher would be. So as I was leaving to cover another class somewhere else, someone else would be entering the classroom I just left, so the room utilization would be extremely high. And you can see the other issues there. Obviously, the services that students had at the elementary would just be transferred, so that would not be a cost, except for travel would be an increased cost. Eliminating 1 assistant principal and between the middle and high, and having 1.5 at each does cause quite a few issues, and that again is not something administration would recommend, myself or any of the administrators. We don't seem to have enough administrators right now. They don't only do discipline. We certainly need them working with our teachers to improve teaching and learning. There's a chart indicating the number of coaches and the number of participants in sports. Obviously, spring sports would have been from last year. The question about reconfiguration, you can see that the numbers are different. Last year's numbers were based on last year, and this year's numbers are based on this year. So the numbers are a little bit different. There is a possible savings in staff. That would be the outside. That would be as many as we could possibly save. And you can see, I'm on page 4 at the top, I'm sorry. So you can see if there were 15 sections, that would be 5 in each of the 3 schools. If you recall, Center Road and Maple were suggested, so I'm just going with the option C, I think it was. Center Road and Maple were suggested for grades 3, 4, and 5. And the other 3 schools, Northeast, Skinner, and Lake, would be for grades PK through 2. And they're pretty evenly divided, PK through 2, and grades 3, 4, and 5. Maple would have 4 of each grade, and Center Road would have 9, 9, and 7. But I can give you those numbers if you're interested. I used the same transportation, moving, and facility modification costs as last year because we did a lot of work on that last year, so I don't think that would be any different, although there could be cost of living increases to that, but that was the money that we used last year. The 5,700 account is lots of equipment, and we had moved all technology to the central office last year, and apparently we missed a couple of items at the high school and the middle school that should be moved over, and when indeed the board does pass this budget, if those items remain, we would move them over, so they would be in the central office budget at that time. There's a description of what those numbers after the teachers' names mean. We had been asked about budget surpluses. I'd like to explain this chart. You can see the last 5 years, what we ended the year with, and of that, what was transferred or requested to go to the capital non-recurring fund. So as an example, in 2007-8, the board had a $128,000 surplus. $102,000 of that was requested and did get put into the Educational Capital Non-Recurring Fund, and you can see continuing the last 5 years. Health insurance, we did get our preliminary quotes, and on the top of page 6 you can see that Anthem has come in with a rate of 10.56%. That did include all the parameters. I think paraprofessionals, new paraprofessionals are paying for 50% of their increases. The teachers are paying for 100% of their increases, so they were given all of those parameters, and that's the increase we were given. That's the lowest increase in the bid. And right now, we were budgeting at about 11%, and that, I think it's a little higher now, that including new staff. There's more explanation in there as well. Contingency, I know that the board had just voted to take out about $3.5 million out of the contingency, but there is a significant amount of money left in there, just so that you recall. We are negotiating the non-certified library professionals, personnel, the school nurses, and the secretaries and custodians contracts. That's 3 contracts. Additionally, salary increases that the board determines for non-affiliated employees are there, and the request to bring to market value the salaries of the executive secretaries is also there. There were questions specific to the high school that you can look through. You may have some answers there that you were looking for. Vernon Center Middle School, there are some questions. The first one is worthy of note. We did reduce to 8 teams 2 years ago. Mr. Kane last year did increase to 9 without adding staff. So the teams are smaller right now than they were in the past, but it was important to get back to the 3 teams per grade level so that we could service all the students. The team that was servicing grades 7 and 8 was having difficulty servicing that many students with different curricula areas. And so he has responded to the board there. The principals did respond to their own areas, so sometimes you'll see I written there, and we left that there. Let's see what else. In Center Road School, that's a district question about music, but Center Road does have more students, so we do have more special people there. Another one that was a question that came up several times on Maple Street, questions at the bottom of page 9, answers are at the top of page 10, both to the first and second question. And the question was, when we started the community school last year, the board or the district hired a person to be the community school liaison. The funding that we used was $11,000 from the tutoring line item, and that was used for last year. If you recall, that didn't start until April 30th, or the first week in May. Therefore, the budget was not changed for this year, so the budget was still at $11,000. And so, but we are paying that person based on the same rate she was receiving last year. So that line item is in the hole, and it probably isn't reflected there, so she's probably being paid out of salary line item now as opposed to that one. And that one will offset $11,000 of it. The salary is $35,200. That is what should be in this year's budget, but she is being paid in full for last year, and there's a 1 missing. It should be $11,131 in that answer for number 2 on the top of the page, and it says 1,000. I'm sorry about that. There are other questions about staff, and I would be happy to answer any of these publicly. There was a question in Maple Street about repair to the bathrooms. We do have some sinks that are not functional, and we do need to fix those. We need to upgrade them. There are functioning sinks in every lavatory, just not all of them. We do need to do that. Mr. Ficarro has indicated the number, this is on page 11, Central Administration, the number of staff members and the percent that have moved to an HSA. And our spell check keeps fixing us and saying HAS, so it is HSA. Spell check drives us nuts there.